I'm with my good friend Inez. I'm one of my favorite humans. Inez, for anyone who may not know, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit before we get to talking?
You got it. Hey guys, what's up? My name's Ines. I write kissing books, and I am a fantasy romance author under this pen name, Ines. I also write clean and wholesome military romance under Shanae Johnson, and I have a super secret pen name coming out. I'm actually doing the pre-order after we get off from talking today, and she writes later in life romance. I'm not announcing that name yet, just because I'm experimenting with her and I'm trying to prove the things that I've been teaching people actually work. So if you want to follow along on that journey, you should check out my Substack at ineswrites.substack.com.
Yes, she has the best name for a Substack. Inez Johnson's having a breakdown, and I love it so much. You, we were saying before we started, you have this really interesting way of like combining highly structured and highly extemporaneous things and having like molding back and forth there. And we're talking about blocks here. So like you seem like the kind of person who has faced a ton of blocks, but also gotten over like an infinite number of blocks. So like how do you like how do you think about blocks?
Well, if we're talking about in terms of being creatively blocked, I think it's because of structure that I very rarely to never, knock on for Micah, get creatively blocked. I'm obsessed with patterns and how things work and going into the nitty gritty. Like I think I would have probably been a physicist if I could hold on to math in my head and really studied like atoms and subnuclear atomic things. But I think the number one thing to get past, to maneuver around, to completely avoid a block is to call a thing. That's something Ayanna Van Zant always said. Call a thing a thing. I think when you name something, it it loses some of its negative power. So whenever people are asking me, well, I have a plot block. Well, I start asking questions like, well, where are you in the plot? Like, huh? What? Like, where are you in the structure? Where are you in the trope? Where are you in the love story? Where are you in the mystery or thriller? Because there's patterns there. And if you know where you are, like on a map, if you know where you are and then you get lost, if you pull out that map and you unfold it and open up, then you can figure out, oh, I thought I was here back on I-95, but I'm actually on 20 West. And if I just get back over using these streets to get back over to I-95, I can continue on my way. And the names of those streets are maybe the meet cute. Or if you're doing dark romance, maybe this is the place where the hero, the anti-hero, you get his backstory and understand why he's so obsessed with that heroine. There are patterns, there are things that are named, there are pathways that people have already walked that you can take a look at and say, oh, that's how they did it, that's how they got there, and then you go your own way.
Yeah. So what would you do to someone who's writing like, okay, so like mysteries and thrillers and romance are like pretty highly structured. But like,
Mhm.
let's say someone has a 12 book epic fantasy book they want to do, and they're like in the middle of book one and they're lost, and there's not really a clear guide as like that has been done. Like, what would you say to someone like that besides do a romance or like do a mystery or thriller or something else instead?
I would first ask, because side quests are a thing in epic fantasy. Like, do you want to get back on the path right now? Maybe you want to be in this side quest. I would break it down even further to tell you that side quests have structure. And where are you on that side quest? I would also take a look at, because I come from television, so I'm used to these big stories that have these anchor points at different at places in the seasons over the whole arc of the story. So I would tell you to go back structure look at, well, in book one, what was the end arc of that story? How does it relate to book two? Where did you go forward or backward in book three with that story arc? What is the end goal? I don't really understand stories that don't have some kind of an end goal. Like you can always continue it, but there should be something that you're questing towards. And if you're not, then I'm not the person to talk to you because I don't know how to tell you to go somewhere where you don't know where you're going. So I would backtrack and backplot and take a look at that structure. And I'd probably pull out a whole bunch of sticky notes and colored pens and pencils and start putting things on a wall to help you. But it would be the same advice. Go back and look at, map out where you have came from, map where you know you want to go, and then just take a look at that expanse that's left. And how do you get from where you are, somewhere around letter M, all the way to Z? Because there's a way to do it. Someone's done it before you. Take a look at what they did and then do it better.
Yeah, I love that. I also often am like, well, what is the structure of this side quest? Like the side
Hmm.
quest could be a heist. Like you have might have a
Yeah,
crazy like 12 book epic fantasy book, but like if they have to do a heist right now, then
there's
like this is a
rules.
heist book right now.
There's rules. There's rules to heist. There's red herrings. Like we have in mysteries, how there's red herrings. There's red herrings in heist. Someone's probably gonna betray you. The villain is probably gonna have they call it the speech and praise of the villain. A heist probably has that because you think you're outsmarting the villain, but at some point, either they outsmart you or the authorities or someone who you or was helping you is gonna backstab you, or the treasure that you thought was right here is not there, or it's something else. So you, I know that you're special and you're perfect and you're amazing, but somebody has already done it before you. But you're you, so you're going to do it better. You're going to do it different. So again, as you're trying to reinvent the wheel, know that it's a wheel, and the purpose of the wheel is to go forward. So just look at the path. Really, look at the path.
Yeah, I love that. Can we actually like just step back and take your experiences in your main experience of like writing and coaching is in romance. So can we maybe take like an actual thing of like how you would do this in a story, like an actual one maybe you found or that you could do like now? It doesn't have to be romance, it can be any kind of story, but like let's make it concrete.
So if you're asking me like let's talk about the structure of a romance and how we go into that. Romance, the beautiful thing about romance, the readers come there because they have very set expectations. They expect you to do the same thing every time, but different. It's the reason that people love playing board games, card games, video games is because of the rules. They want to get into the comfortable structure of the rules, right? But then see how they can move around, see how they can wiggle, see what they can break, all within that confinement. And it's the same thing that romance readers love. So we're kind of gamers, right? But we want to see you innovate inside the rules of the game. We don't really want to see you completely break the rules because that's not comfortable. That's not why we came. We came to see you innovate. We came to see you win. So a romance is always going to start. Introduce the hero, introduce the heroine. You got to figure out why they are, if they want to fall in love, like what's stopping them? Like what is it that about themselves or about the world or about other people that is putting that block there? Then there's a meet cute. There's they get together, even if it's in a second chance romance where they know each other, or an office romance where they know each other. The readers get to see them together on the page for the first time. They get to see that interaction after being introduced to them separately. How do they work together? So there's the meet cute. There's a reason against why these two people cannot be together. Because if they meet and they're like, oh, I forgot I loved you, or I see immediately that I love you, story's over. We have nowhere to go. So there
But like
needs to
those
be,
books are do exist, right? There are like insta love stories, and they're like 10,000 words usually, like
there
10 or
are insta love
20,000 words. So
stories,
like
but there's still
they're
conflict.
shorter, but they're yeah,
There's still conflict though
right.
in an insta love. So you might have a werewolf shifter that looks and he knows that's his fated mate. I smell you. You're my fated mate. But maybe she is like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be with you. I don't know you. I don't believe in werewolves. Or I have a business that I need to attend to. I can't go somewhere and be your mate and live in the woods. There's a reason. And very often, one or the other person is the reason that it's not going to work. So it becomes a part of the journey of, I need to convince you and I need to accept what my heart wants or figure
Mm,
out how to balance what the head wants and what the heart wants. There's still going to be a conflict, even in an insta love story, even in something so short. There has to be a reason they
mm,
can't be together immediately or story's over.
right.
So we get the reason that they can't. or they think they can't be together. And then there has to be an adhesion, a reason that they need to physically be in proximity to each other for the duration of this story. And if it's insta love and he's a werewolf and he's like, you're mine. And then maybe she's like, no, and maybe she runs away and now he has to follow behind her. That's the reason that they have to be together. If they're on an epic quest, maybe there's bad guys coming after them or a dragon coming after them. They have to stick together in order to go on this quest. That's an adhesion point that pushes us into Act Two. Act Two is still, it's the dating. Act two, you're getting to know each other with fun and games. You're getting to know each other, going out on these what I call dates, even though it might not be like a sit down at the dinner kind of a date. You're probably, if you're on an epic quest, maybe you're facing off against a troll and trying to answer the troll's question in order to get across the bridge. Well, the heroine might know something that the hero doesn't, but they're clashing. So that on that date, they have to figure out how to trust each other and work. One of my favorite romances that's a buddy love movie is Lethal Weapon, where Danny Glover and I get their names mixed up, and Mel Gibson, I get their character names mixed up. But that's an office romance with opposites attract, right? Because they are these two cops that are completely different from one another, and they're thrust together and have to work together to solve a murder. And so they go on if you remember, one of the first thing that they go on is when the suicide jumper is going to, he goes up to the top and he's hesitating, and Mel Gibson's character goes up there and basically jumps with the guy, which just makes Danny Glover's character fly off the handle. That's a date. And they're figuring out, how do we work together? And they go forth on this mystery, and they antagonize each other, they work together, then they realize, we work really well together. We should be partners, even though it's not romantic. That's fun and games. That's having dates. That's getting to know each other until you get to two moments. There's a mirror moment that happens not just in a romance, it happens like in so many genres. The mirror moment, which was discovered by James Scott Bell, once upon a time, there were these things called VHS tapes. And James Scott Bell, out of a fluke, I don't know why he did it, but he fast forwarded. Once upon a time, movies were 90 minutes long. He fast forwarded 45 minutes into a film, and he saw that the character was having a reflective moment. Maybe they were looking in a mirror. Maybe they were having a conversation about how they were perceived. He decided to call it the mirror moment because it was a moment where they looked back at who they were, all the decisions that they made, and then they looked forward at who they needed to become in order to get their goal. He called that a mirror moment because it was very often reflective. That they were probably looking in a mirror or having some kind of a reflective conversation. So you have that moment. And then next you have a dark moment where you have to make a decision. And either you make the worst decision and everything falls apart, or you make a really good decision that you think is going to move you forward, but something unexpected happens. But in any way, it's a dark moment and things start to fall apart, which thrusts you into Act Three, where you have to learn your final lessons. You have to have a wake up moment. In a romance, there's going to be a grand gesture. And then there's going to be the happily ever after, where it's, I love you. I love you. Let's kiss and live forget forever and ever, always. Amen. That's a romance.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you're saying about structure because for me, structure allows me to screw with people more.
Yeah.
Like we think that like structure is going to limit you, but like if you know they're going to end happily ever after, then like you can make them go through a lot of stuff, right?
Yes, that's why I sometimes I don't know what to tell people when they get afraid or they turn their noses up structures and formulas. I'm like, you understand the readers know this as well. The readers or the viewers know this as well. So you can really you can absolutely screw with them. What if you're coming to that dark moment and then you zig and readers like, wait, what? You're supposed to do this. And you got them because now they're paying attention. Like, what are you going to do? And they're
Right.
paying even more attention to you. And then you zag back to where you thought. So you app structure allows you, for me at least, it allows me so much creative freedom because I know what they're expecting. And then I can subvert it, or I can downplay it, or I can overplay it, and I can really mess with them.
Yeah. I mean, a great example is I think Ocean's 11 because you think they've
Mm-hmm.
lost. And then you go back and you're like, actually, we planned for literally all of these things. Like the losing was the poor, and you're like, oh, that makes so much sense now. Because I thought that they were supposed to win, but there's only 10 minutes left of this movie. How can they win if they just lost?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
If you want to play 3D chess with your readers, you have to learn the rules.
Yeah, I okay, so I write a lot of romance now. Like I did a comic with Lee, I did a comic with Melissa.
Mhm.
I like work in this space quite a bit now. And so like I say this with love and
Hmm.
with like what I love about romance is it taught me that the things that I thought the level of conflict I needed to have in order to make a story work was wildly exponentially higher than what it actually had to be. Like it started when I was watching Hallmark movies with my mother, and I was like, yo, just like the things work out. And she's like, that's not true. Like this happened and this happened. I was like, those are just things that happen. And they're like, but there's conflict there. And like, so sometimes a great subversion, if you're doing this big epic thing, is just have something like so small
Yes.
and so small go wrong. So like when people say, I like I don't know what to happen next, I often like you're thinking too big, man. Like what is like just like a very small thing that could lead to another 10,000 words out of you.
Because that's human nature. That's my children, and my children are in their 20s. And if one small they make a plan and one small thing goes wrong, hysterics. Oh my God, the world is over. I'm never gonna succeed. Y'all, everybody, every one of y'all have felt that at some point in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like often by knowing the structure or like knowing these things, you can say, okay. And a lot of the subversion that I write in my own books is like you think that we're going to this big moment of like this dragon fight, but reality, like this guy stubs their toe and the next 10,000, like, so I write fantasy and I write like action adventure fantasy, but the last thing that I want to do in any of my books is fight. Like literally, I will do everything in my power. And the moment I know the moment's coming, but it's not until like it's so not painful, but like kind of painful. It is like it's so like all right, dude, you got all the things, all of the crazy stuff happened that they got to go fight the dragon now. And you're like, ugh. But I'm also the kind of guy who like did all the side quests. And then by the time I got to the big boss in a video game, like I was so overpowered that the fight took like 3 minutes. And I'm like, that to me is the fun of fantasy.
I agree with you. No notes.
Yeah, I think as we both started in TV and movies, so it's like so obvious that like the good part is the tension. Like it's
Yeah.
not the payoff.
Yeah. I think also, Russell, we had a formal education in this. I think a lot of indie authors come to this having consumed so much of the art form of books that they know it intrinsically, but it might be hard for them to have a conversation where we are talking about these structures and these plot points. They know it, they just don't know that they know it.
Right. Yeah, because we've gone through story for our whole lives.
Mhm.
We've been part of story. There's this great quote, I forget who said it, but it's if a reader tells you that there's a problem, believe them. If they tell you how to solve it, never believe them.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and I also think I'm just gonna throw this out there to you because I think that like I've been musing on it and I think it's accurate, but I'd love to get what you think. Like I think that oftentimes blocks come because we don't want to put our reader through like the pain of this moment. But
Yeah.
like and they're like, I can't they're reading my story for like the release, but it's like often people are reading a story to like process something also, right?
Yes. Yes. I think also we get to know our characters. We see them as real people and we don't want to hurt them. And when that happens, because I'm always that person, I do not like a mean hero. But whenever I see that I don't like something or I'm scared of something, then that I'm like, okay, that's the next thing you have to write. But then I remember exactly what you just said. We are re we are reading these books. Human beings, they consume story to try to understand how to live life better, how to work out their own stuff. That's really what we're doing. We are showing examples, potentials of how to be a better human.
Yeah. I mean, often people are reading like almost all cozy, at least paranormal cozy mysteries are like someone who has retired from their job and gets to
Mhm.
do the thing that like they wanted to do.
Yeah.
But like, so like a lot of people come to that who are retired and they're like, I have the time to do this
Yeah.
thing. So like a lot of people, like people's transition points of what they're dealing with in their life mirror what like is happening in the story. And so they want to see their possibilities.
Hmm.
And frankly, like only, what is it, 25% of people can't have no imagine, like literally like just can't
Yeah, I don't
imagine things.
understand that.
So
Yeah.
so it's like there's a large portion of people that are just like, I need to know what to do, and I physically can't know what to do because my brain doesn't work like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Say to those people, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, that's what I say to like authors who come to me and are like, I don't want to put like, what am I like? And like when they're blocked, I often, and they're saying like, I don't want to put my person through this. I always say, I said, you can only affect change in a story. You can only show change through conflict. Like you can't show that someone is a better person without having them do a thing and then the same thing and be
Yeah.
different, right?
Yeah. So maybe the thing is if someone is comfortable with or if they are willing to take the leap to write out of order, write them happy. Write them on the other side of that. So you know you see them there. And then maybe you can backtrack and make it the worst thing possible because you know what's about to come.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I grew up in comics, like writing in comics and TV. So I don't know, did you learn the right to the middle in TV?
No, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, in comics, so like if you know what the last page is going to be in a
Hmm.
comic, because it's almost always a splash page, and you know how long the story is going to be,
Hmm.
and you know where they are at the beginning of the story, you can just write, this is page 2, this is page 19, this is page 3, this is page 18, and by the time you get to the middle, you often have to rewrite like how to get there, but
Yeah,
suddenly you're like, oh, it's so obvious what has to happen because
yeah,
this is where I know the story's going.
yeah. No, I was taught anchor points, and that's not what they were called, but I was taught these basically these pillars that had to be there. And so on page one, it was place, time, mood, tone. I still remember that. On page one, you got to show of the script, you got to show place, time, mood, tone. Then you have your want dialogue. Oh my God, I'm remembering all this stuff. You have your want dialogue. You have your inciting incident, on and on. And it was envisioned like a clothes hanging line, and you would envision like we don't call them this, but clothespins.
Sure.
You you would have clothespins. And the metaphor was that if you didn't have enough clothespins, your story would sag. And so I didn't learn about the messy middle until I started writing novels because I was taught to have these pillars in
Hmm.
your story. Like literally, this was the time when we before like we were had computers. Oh my God, I'm old. And we would just take we take 90 pieces of white paper, hole punched. We'd put the brads in them. If you remember what the brads were,
Oh yeah.
we'd put the brads in them, and then we would mark on the pages. You By the time you get to this page, you need to have hit this pillar.
Hmm.
So I always knew what I was writing towards because that's what I was taught. I wasn't
Right.
There was no such thing as a pantser. I didn't know what that was again until I came into novel writing, and I was like, "What are y'all doing? You're
Right.
supposed to have this structure here."
This is so relatable to me. Another thing that I never had a problem with was chapter breaks because I
Hmm.
was right. Like, if you think about it like a TV show, back in the
Yeah.
day, we had these things called
Commercials.
commercials.
Yes.
And so, like, you
Preach,
had to
Russell.
make something so interesting at the commercial break that they would come back. They would sit through the tedious commercials to come back like 3.5 minutes later. Cause, like, so, the, like, you could make some boring stuff here, but the break, so like I was like every chapter break has to be like a commercial break, right? Because you got to get someone
Mhm.
reading the next chapter.
Exactly. Same, exactly the same. And so when I'm talking to people like you who understand this, we have a nice flowing conversation. But when I'm talking to someone who, again, has consumed so much and they're an amazing storyteller because they have all this knowledge in their head, but it's not organized the way that we came ha to having it organized, it just we have to stop and make sure we're constantly on the same page before we can continue the conversation.
Right. And many people say, well, we don't have commercial breaks anymore. But if you watch a Netflix show, like they're still writing to the
We
commercial
still
breaks
say it, yeah.
roughly every 10 to 15 minutes at the most. Like
Because they
maybe
still
it's
want
not every
syndication.
yeah, maybe it's not every 7 minutes like it was on ABC, but
Hmm.
like it's they're writing to these, I call them set pieces. And like in a
Yes.
movie, you also write to set pieces because
Yes.
like you have to know the set pieces because that is what the production designer is going to be making, and you have to know them
Yep.
early enough that the location scouts can go scout like
Yep.
all of this stuff. So like you don't necessarily need to know everything, but like look, if your thing's gonna be Rivendell, guess what? You got to go to Rivendell because they're gonna spend $3 million building that Rivendell set. So like
Yeah.
you better be building to Rivendell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, folks listening, please don't think that you now have to go to film school in order to be a writer. We just learned a different way of approaching, and there are so many amazing, fantastic stories that we have today, and people are approaching them from a different perspective, from a different perch in creativity. But when we're talking about having blocks, maybe if you do have a block, maybe come and take a look. Well, really, if you have a block, I really think that structure is the answer because it's laid out for you. And to
Mm.
figure out where you are on the structure, you can kind of sit and look at that and think, well, if I'm right there and I need to get right there, let me start to brainstorm ideas of how to do it.
Right.
And
Or
that
like
might be helpful.
right. Or what structure could like, oh, well, like I'm here, I'm there. Like, do I need a romance beat? Like, do I need a thriller
Hmm.
beat? Like, what is the
Yes,
way I can get through that thing?
exactly.
Yeah, but
Beats, but also tropes because tropes have their structure as well. People are now talking about micro tropes in romance. If you say something like, give my wife whatever she wants, and there's the my wife trope, there's the micro trope, there's the only one bed micro trope, and there are ways that these get set up, and there are payoffs that they have. And if you even just make a checklist of it, do I have all of the stuff that the readers are expecting as part of this genre, as part of these beats, as part of these tropes? That that just to me it feels so comfortable. It feels like I can't fall down. I can't make mistakes because readers have already told me I like this box. Can
right.
you write inside this box, but make it look different?
Right, exactly. I love that. And that's a great working towards close moment. I guess I would just I also want to make sure it's clear that like for instance commercial breaks. Like
Hmm.
there were serial breaks in like most of your favorite books of all like historical books were written in serial form
Yeah.
in a newspaper
Yep.
once a day, once a week, once a month, whatever that thing is. And so people had to know that they were going to go away. And you know, there was also like you go to sleep for thousands of years. And like people learned how to tell a story in a way that like was exciting to a 4-year-old kid to come
Mhm.
back the next night and hear the next thing. I
Mhm.
often think one of the reasons that Lord of the Rings was so effective was because he had to tell it to his child. So it had to be engaging enough that the kid wanted to
Oh,
come
I didn't know
back.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started writing Lord of the Rings or Hobbit. I think it was The Hobbit. Yeah, it was one of the two. But he started telling his the story to his kid, and he would keep getting
Hmm.
details wrong. He would be like, Christopher would be like, "What? The character's thing was green. It was not
Ah!
blue." And so like he's like, "I'm just gonna write this down so I know what it is." And so like the tradition of commercials comes because like a bunch of really successful humans spend a lot of money figuring out what is the longest and shortest amount of time you could you could interrupt story to get
Hmm.
someone to come back in the best way. And so like it's not that like oh TV made this thing, it's that like humans evolved to
Yeah.
be in this thing, which is why it doesn't matter if there are commercials or not. Like you still need to have breaks because people stop the television and you need to give people the down break so they can stop the TV. Like that was the other thing I learned in TV. It's like you need to give people a reason to be able to pause the thing or like to like go away. They know that there's a commercial. Like they know, oh, they're just talking about this part. Like you can you have 3 more minutes till I use the bathroom or like do whatever, make your popcorn. Like you need both of those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agree.
All right.
Agree.
So any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, just that don't be afraid of structure. If somebody says formula, don't take it as an insult. All the people that came before you, all the readers that said, I really like this particular thing, listen to them. I think it can only make you more successful. I don't think this can hurt you at all. So try it out, give it a look.
I love it. You would never go on a roller coaster if you didn't know you were going to survive at the end.
Word.
All right. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, Inez.
No, thank you for hanging out with me, Russell.